So the first book that I have today is Stitch and Bitch, The Knitter's Handbook from my best friend, Ruthie. I have a similar book from the same author called Knit First Aid that I really like. Ruthie didn't know that, so this is a really good accidental gift, and I'm really excited about it. Next up, I have Laura Lippman's Baltimore Blues. This is the first in her Tess Monahan series. I recently saw Laura Lippman speak at the National Book Festival, and at that point I realized that I'd read I'd Know You Anywhere, and I'd already bought The Most Dangerous Thing, but I hadn't read any of her Tess Monahan series, so I'd like to see what that's all about with the first book. Then I have a series of books from one of my favorite local bookstores, One More Page, Books and More in Arlington. First of all, I went to a wine tasting recently there with some varietal wines, which is delicious. And I got The Wild Vine by Todd Kleiman. So I'm really curious to see how he addresses first the local aspect and also how he sort of weaves this biography of a grape. So it's kind of interesting. Then I have the book everyone's talking about, The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. It's actually a lot thicker than I expected, but I read the first couple pages. It seems pretty interesting. It kind of reminds me of the beginning of Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell by Susanna Clark. This was a NaNoWriMo book, so it's good to see those authors coming to some success, and I'm excited about reading this one. Also, at One More Page, I saw Carolyn Parkhurst speak. Carolyn is one of my favorite authors of all time. This book was excellent, and I actually got her to sign it. I was pleased to note that her signature included with best wishes and no restraining order. I recently wrote about my favorite local authors, and I said that I liked her so much she was going to have to put a restraining order in place. So I'm glad that she won't, for now. Also from One More Page, I've gotten Colin Meloy's new book, Wildwood. I look forward to reading this book. I don't know if it has anything to do with Wildwood, New Jersey, which I go to every year, with Jack, but this is supposed to be a young adult book. It's one in a series, it's illustrated, and it looks really cool, so we'll see. And last I have Lauren Miracle, I think that's how you say her name, Shine. This book is quite popular right now. It was nominated for a National Book Award and then unnominated, which is too bad. They said that there was basically a miscommunication. They meant a different book with a similar title, and so the unlikely result was that people went out and got this book to show support. In all of the hubbub about it, I read several summaries, and it sounds fascinating. It's about bullying and homosexuality, so it seems really cool. So I'm glad I finally got that copy. And then I have a couple of other books. A Rip in Heaven, a memoir of murder and its aftermath. When I first began taking my writing class, my instructor advised against writing about something that you're really close to, because you may not have that perspective to get away from it. And while I agree with that, I also think that there are some things where your perspective, because it is so close, adds something to it. And that's a form of writing I'm really interested in getting into. So I'd like to see how it's done in this book, how she maintains the right level of objectivity to explain what's happening, but she uses her proximity to the subject to really add that human element. Another excellent nonfiction writer is Sebastian Junger, The Perfect Storm. I've actually not read anything by Sebastian Junger, and so I thought that this book would be a really good chance to see what he's all about. What I'm interested about in this book is that he wasn't there, he didn't meet any of these main characters. So he had to construct everything from second, third, fourth-hand accounts and make it seem interesting without going past that barrier of lying and saying that you were there. And finally, I have a work of poetry by Lucille Clifton called Blessing the Boats. when I was an undergrad, I wrote about one of her poems, The Lost Baby poem. It was one of my favorites. So I wanted to read more poetry from her. Unfortunately, I've already started flipping through, and it looks like a lot of her poems have to do with Aunt Flo and her uterus. So hopefully there are some hidden gems in here, but so far I'm a little disappointed. But I've got a lot of good books otherwise, so please join me next time as I let you know what's in my mailbox.